Hey guys, and thanks for joining me for the third part in my Leakfinder giveback series. This time we'll be reviewing 3 games at the $15 level. The first 2 games will be against random opponents, and in the third game we'll be facing a regular. First hand we have Ace Queen offsuit, villain min raises, and we go all in, so looks good. Min raise with Queen 3 is fine. I like the small c-bet on this board. We turn a gotcha. I think we can fold out 4s by betting again, and by triple barreling we will fold out a king sometimes. He can also have Queen 10 and Jack 10 that will call the turn and fold the river on a blank. So I think I want to bet here again. I think the sizing is too small though. We're gonna get called even by a 4 sometimes when we bet so small. I would rather go 90 and shove the river. On the river he leads out, so I think he pretty much represents a flush by leading out. I think he will have it a decent amount here because not too many hands make sense for him to play that way. So I would just fold here and make a note of that hand. Checking back king 3 in a limp pot is fine. I would just check call readless here with bottom pair. The thing with check raising bottom pair is that it makes more sense against people that are gonna make it hard for you to get to showdown, but I think the average opponent will let us get to the river often enough that check calling would be our best play. But he folds, so more power to us. So we open with 7-3, get shoved on. Checking back 10-6 is fine. And yeah, I think leading out with the gotcha is good. And barreling the ace is pretty mandatory. But I would bet bigger here, probably 70, so we can jam river without making a big overbet. And I also think we should have more fold equity against a deuce or a king high if we bet 70 instead of 50. On the deuce river, I think he shouldn't have a lot of 2x in his range. I would feel more comfortable about this if we bet 70 on the turn, because then we would have folded out more deuce x hands. And we can very credibly have a flush here. My only problem is that given how we played the first hand, where he likely had a flush in my opinion, he might not raise flush draws on the flop, which should put some more strong hands in his river range. I think it's pretty close, but I would probably still go for it and jam here. But we chose to check fold. Looks good. Min raising a3 suited is fine. Calling the min 3 bet, of course. So I think I would peel the flop. We're getting very good odds, and we actually have enough equity to call here with our 5 outs, even if he has like aces, and we have some chance of having the best hand already, so I don't really like folding here. So we face a limp with queen queen, a little over 10 big blinds. This short I might just min raise the limp or check back. Yes, it's a little transparent, but it doesn't mean people will get away if they flop a pair or a draw on the flop. I think 75 might actually fold out hands like 8-6 off, and we want to give him a chance to hit middle pair or a straight draw and just go with it. I don't mind open jamming for 3 suited here. He didn't fold to a min raise so far, so there's less value in min raising, I guess. Checking back 6-5 is fine. Not a great flop to lead out against a limping range, so just check folding here is fine. Queen deuce min raising is good. Seven six suited, I like the open jam. We get snapped by king 3 suited. So we face another limp, and I think checking back is fine, and we hit a pretty good flop, so we definitely want to check here and possibly just check call because there's not much that he can have. He decides to check back, so I think at this point we can bet to charge spades that are now available, and maybe a hand like 5-6 that he limped or king high. I think all of those hands would be calling here. And on the river, I think I would go for a check raise. I mean, I am mostly concerned with stacking off a 10 here if he happens to have a 10, because I don't think there are many other hands that can call another bet that won't be betting themselves, either as a bluff if he has like spades, or for value if he's got a 10 or a deuce without a boat. So let's see what we do here. We bet 90 and get raised, snapping off, and we're actually beat. So too bad for us, I guess. That would be the unfortunate end of this match, and we'll go straight into the next match. So new game and new opponent. Check back 8-6 pre-flop. I think leading here with the gut shot is fine, readless. We also have backdoor straight with the 4 and backdoor low flush with the 6, so, and we have 2 overcards to the 4 of course, so I guess that's enough equity to be leading out here. Nine eight, I like the raise pre-flop. Cbet looks good, and unfortunately we get jammed on. I guess the most likely holding here is a flush draw. If I had a hand like ace king with the ace of heart, I would consider bet calling in this spot, but with 9 high there's nothing we can do. So I think we definitely want to raise our top set on this semi-wet board. I think sizing is okay. He folds, so likely he didn't have a pair or a decent draw, which tells us a lot about his min donking range. Raising 8-4 is fine. C-betting is good. 10-8 suited, I would like to see a raise here against the limp. Well played. And we'll be raise calling ace-8 here, of course. Jack-8 offsuit, I might check. I mean, we've been running over his limp so far, so I feel like we might run into a hand at one point, but I can't really blame you for raising because he has been folding a lot. But it's important to remember that he only limped so far except for one hand where he open jammed, I think. So we can give him credit by now for limping a range that includes some big hands, or at least hands that can shove over an all-in raise. But as I said, since he has been folding so far, I can't really criticize raising his limp again with a decent hand. Uh, 7-6 off, I would raise pre-flop. There's no aggression so far from him in the big blind, and we're still deep enough that I think he'll flat pre-flop a lot and fold to our c-bets. On the flop, I would just min bet to fold out his equity if he doesn't have anything. I'm not worried about getting check raised light at this point, so I think I would just bet the flop. I think as played, betting the turn is fine. It's good. 8-4 suited again. I might be more cautious versus this guy, especially after he pulled off a successful limp shove against us. I mean, again, people that don't have raising ranges are not as good to ISO raise against as the average player, and I think with 8-4 suited I would just avoid this situation. As played, we're definitely c-betting the flop, but unfortunately we're not gonna win this one. So that's it for the second game. So in the third game we'll be playing against a regular, so hopefully we run into some interesting spot in that game. Three betting king queen suited is fine, sizing is fine too. Next hand we open king queen, get 3-bet. I think flatting king queen off is okay, but I think a shove might be best here. Most drags, especially at the $15 level, will be 3-betting all in with ace king and ace queen, which leaves only queens, kings and aces as hands that are dominating us, and we block two of those hands. So picking those 130 chips in the middle is extremely valuable when you have an effective stacks of 460. So I think a shove is going to have a pretty good expectation here. On the flop, he c-bets 90, which is more than what the average reg would bet here. You usually see sizings between 50 and 70 in this spot, so if we call, there's going to be less than a pot size bet left on the turn, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna shove the turn most of the time. I think shoving the flop ourselves is going to be plus EV. There are just not enough ace-x in his range, I think, to make this not profitable. But calling the flop is also an option if we're gonna call off on blank turn. So we call the flop, and as expected he goes all in on the turn, and we fold the turn. So I think calling flop and folding turn on a blank is not a great play, just because he's gonna shove the turn too often, and if we're planning on folding, then we might as well fold the flop. But as I said, I think king queen is one of the best hands we're going to have here on this board, so folding is definitely not something that I would do. When we get check raised here, there's not much we can do in my opinion. It's a weak enough hand in our range that I wouldn't be worried about being exploited by just giving up here. Nine three suited is not a bad hand to put in your non-all-in 3-betting range at 15 big blinds, but folding is fine too. Open shoving 9-8 suited is fine for 14 big blinds. Super standard shove with ace-5. So I think I'm gonna choose something a little stronger for my first limp, and would either raise or fold with 8-3 suited here. Once he raises to 50, it's pretty close, but I think we will fold our hand post flop too often, so just folding to the ISO is probably the way to go here, although we're getting pretty good odds. I mean 2.3 to 1. I think open folding 4-3 is fine. Queen 8 off or 11 big blinds. I think both open shoving and limping are good options. Raising jack 3 is fine. C-betting is fine. He folds another button. 6-5 off again. Raising is fine. On the flop, we have very poor equity against his range, but I'm not sure we can give up on a c-bet here. He's not gonna fold very often, but then again we don't need him to fold often when we bet something like 45 here, and there are definitely hands in his flatting range that should be check folding here. So we see bet, get jammed on, which is unfortunate. Check this offsuit. I think I would put in my min raising range for almost 11 big blinds. I think the offsuit high card, low card hands are like the best candidates to put in a raise folding range at this step. Open shoving king 6 is fine. Unfortunately we get called by sevens and we don't get there, so that would be the end of this match. So that's it for today, guys. As always, feel free to leave comments or questions, and until next time, good luck at the tables.